Hello class and welcome to this week's video discussion. And this week we were asked to go to the JSTOR database and find relative articles in the areas that we are choosing to look into, or areas of interest. My specific area of interest in my dissertation was, as we discussed in the previous video, was the Cristero Wars of 1926 to about 1929-1930. I've been using the JSTOR database for my normal research, so I'm quite familiar with the database of JSTOR, and the articles it provides is actually, aside from the interviews we discussed in the previous videos that I've conducted with so many people who are alive during the Cristero Wars. I have found most of my other sources in JSTOR. They have quite an extensive library in it. One of the primary ones that I would like to discuss, we will discuss all three, but the primary one is S.R. Gates. Now this is the most recent one I have found, and it's in 2023, and it's not directly associated with the Cristero War. I mean, it discusses it, but it's not written directly about it. This is the Decolonizing the Church in Juan Rulfo's Tamba and Chasqui, number 52, number 1, or 52, number 1, 2023, pages 11 through 28. The reason I want to discuss this specific article a little more in depth is because it goes back all the way to the arrival of the Spanish to what we now call Mexico. When Hernan Cortes arrived in Mexico in the late 1500s, there was approximately about 15 million natives, Aztecs. And by the end of his crusade and by the end of his colonization of Spain into that area of Mexico, there was approximately 1.7 million indigenous people left. So this already begins the changing of mind and the changing of gender and social norms and sexuality norms from the Native America from the Native Latin America to what we now know as Mexico through the colonizing of Spain of the natives. This is very interesting to me because you have already created, you've removed the native people and forced religion, forced several other things that they were not used to as their norm, so it changed their gender map, their sexuality map, their ideas and everything that they had. It has changed over the years. So now we arrive to, early 1900s Mexico, where you now have the government of Plutarco Elias Calles, which was the current president in Mexico, who is a very aggressive politician, and he is not accepting the Catholic religion, which most Mexican people during this time have accepted. Now, as the social norms have changed throughout the history of Mexico from the colonization of Spain to this point, we now arrive to what they've accepted as their new social norm, which was the Catholic Church. And now, this president is pushing against them and saying that they will no longer be able to practice this faith. So the war breaks out, people start pushing against the government, and it forms this rebellion of religious war, if you want to call it that. And then we can move into the other two sources, S.E.L. Boskill, 2009, Women, Violence, and the Mexican Cristero Wars, and Elena Garros, Los Recuerdos del Porvenir de Dolores Castros, La Ciudad y Al Viento, the Modern Language Review. This specific one speaks of women in general, which is what we are discussing in my dissertation. The role of women in the Cristero War and how the war affected their gender and their sexuality during and post-war. Now, that specific reference is actually one of my primary one aside from the interviews, because it speaks directly onto what we're discussing, the women's suffrage, so to speak, in Mexico during the Cristeros Revolution. Now, this Bowskill speaks of the women's role as probably one of the most important roles during the Cristero War, because they were not only wives and mothers of people, boys and men that were fighting in this war, but they were actually combatants as well. They also played a large role in fighting against, and pushing against the Plutarco's government. And then the third one was by Senora Barbara Miller, and it was written in 1984, and it was the role of women in Mexico Cristeros Rebellion. Las Señoras y las Religiosas, the Americas. Again, this is directly correlates because it's what my dissertation is about. It's about women, gender, and sexuality, and the effects of during and post-war. Barbara Miller discusses in depth the role of women in the war and gives them pretty much the green light of they are the most advantageous women that have fought in a religious rebellion up to this point. She praises them and pushes them forward, saying that they didn't only push their husbands and sons forward to fight for what they believe in, but they too took up arms and fought against what they believed in, which was the Catholic religion. This was quite interesting because I've been using JSTOR for a while, so I found a few extra resources, those three specifically, that I hadn't seen before, and I just so it was a pretty good week for me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.